taken care of before that.
All right. Yeah, we're gonna get right on into it as soon as I upload this to YouTube. Get us live real quick. Say you've been doing you got a curriculum going on in an academy. That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I've had this since I created my curriculum in around 2005. I started creating it around then. So by 2007, I had a basic format for it, and
You've got a curriculum going on in an academy. That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
yeah, I mean, I've had this. Oh wow, that's the echo, huh?
Yeah, I had to. I told you I had to exit out of it. I already not exit out of it. I'm still learning this whole thing. So bear with me for a minute. I'm gonna get back to where we need to be. And be live now. All right, meetings. Join. All right, we're here.
All right.
All right, let's do it. So go ahead and get the people to run down. Tell them who you are, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Peace and blessings, greetings. Rahubat, I'm Dr. Karaam Ellis. I am the founder of the Temple of Human Spirituality, the creator of the Kalu Global Curriculum Initiative. I am the founder of the Kalu Academy, which is now an online program called the Kalu Home Correspondence Program. I'm the founder of the family music group called Zed Stability, where we have recorded a number of songs in our language, our tribal language. That tribal language is NUWAUBIK, which has evolved, and we have created a family dialect called Kaluic that we speak. We've spoken this language amongst our family and community for over 25 years.
Oh, wow. So the curriculum, what prompted you to create the curriculum? And how does the curriculum work, if you don't mind expounding on that?
I worked in public schools for a bit, but I've always dealt with education and working with youth. And I realized that some of the things in our entire process as melanated people, one of the root causes of a lot of our issues and things can be found in the curriculum that we were had been exposed to for generations. And generally, when we talk about curriculum, the average person, their mind goes to content. It goes to lesson plan. It goes to the information, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm speaking of the vehicle, the vessel that information rides in. You can teach a child about Africa. You can teach a child about the Native America. The ancient. Any ancient indigenous culture, anything that may relate to who they are. But if you utilize a curriculum that was designed with a specific intent, that destination is for the benefit of other beings, then it still is not going to have the full effect that you need it to have in order to allow your child to develop and to reach the pinnacle of the potential that they have. So I realized this early and started to, I knew that I was going to homeschool my children. So I said, instead of just trying to find curriculums and use other people's curriculums and try to, pepper it up, doctor it up, make it look, sound, Afrocentric, or make it sound cultural, or make it sound spiritual. I said, if we create a curriculum we would be able to control the very direction that the future of our children, that they move in, and give them an opportunity to see the world from a much more objective perspective, and not be sucked into the whole illusion of everything so readily, so quickly, and so overwhelmingly. So we created the curriculum, and the curriculum allows us to say, we can teach anything to our children the way that we want to teach it to them.
Absolutely.
We can certify and we can degree our children because we control the authentication of it when you control the curriculum. And as I did that, I began to find out a lot of very powerful things over the years, like having a curriculum is the foundation of having a nation, is the foundation of having an empire, is the foundation of self-governance, of autonomy. Because you can govern yourself, but if you're governing yourself using somebody else's government processes and their tactics and their titles and things, then you're just mocking and mimicking them. But more importantly, it leaves them a back door to be able to come in and influence you to eventually give your autonomy back up again. So there are a lot of countries and groups and organizations and governments and things like that that are out there that declared their autonomy and pulled themselves into a self-governing perspective, but because they were just taken from what was given through Western curriculum, a lot of them found themselves right back up under the reins of the West. So having a curriculum, it gives us the opportunity to say, well, look, we can start from scratch. We can take the principle of science and technology and literally start it from scratch, from the molecule out. We can teach health and wellness the way that we want to teach health and wellness. We can teach history and archives, and we can teach spirituality, and we can teach food production and distribution and all these different things. So this was the beginning of the process of what I realized was the development of how a body of people can become autonomous. So our curriculum is a simple concept. It's broken down into a system of sashes and keys, and the keys represent modules of information that the children master. They master the keys. They receive the actual Ankh, which represents, key to everlasting life. That's what they say. It represents mastery of one level and induction or introduction or initiation into a higher level. So within our curriculum, that's what the Ankh represents. So when a child completes a level of information, they receive an Ankh. And
okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, and all of the subjects are based upon a series of 9 Ankhs that they have to receive. 3 levels, so we don't do grades because grades is a part of the Western process because it allows them to control the development of the mind. So they say by this age, you're supposed to know this. By this grade, you're supposed to know that. When in actuality, there are things that children learn that allow them to one, enjoy childhood, but also prepare themselves for adulthood. Teenage years was created in Western society to stretch out the process of development mentally so that the majority of the population has already been mentally enslaved, and all they want to do is find themselves in some place within the social structure that is around them, because they've been mesmerized, they've been hypnotized, they've been seduced. So that teenage years gives them all that time, those years to do that, when indigenously the children were children, and then after they were children, they put aside childish things and they became functioning, productive members of their community. And that's
absolutely correct.
And that's what's important with all of this. So the curriculum, it gives us the opportunity to get back to that. It's a process. It's not something that happens overnight. You got a lot of people that come through. I've dealt with a lot of parents who are looking for the curriculum to be in the same format or be able to do the same thing that Western curriculum does. And Western curriculum,
which defeats the damn purpose.
Right.
We don't want them to do what they do.
Exactly.
Right?
And they'll ask, so like, my child goes to your school, what about going to college and scholarship? I'm like, so first of all, you missed the whole point of curriculum. If you send your child to a private school or you homeschool your child and you still want them to go to college, then all you're doing is you're just making sure that the programming that they receive is more focused, so that they'll probably just find a higher position in the servitude of this society that we're trying to get away from. So you're still missing the point. Our master teacher, who sacrificed his life to renew the history of the planet, gave us a lot of information, but was, in one particular instance, he was asked about, he was talking about school and how we should have our own schools. And someone said, well, what if I want my child to go to school to be a doctor? And he looked out and he said, there's a doctor over there. He said, have them apprentice under that doctor, and then they'll become a doctor. And people didn't understand that. I saw it. I was like, exactly. I said, wow, we have every skill set that we need. All we have to do is authenticate ourselves. We still think that we're not official unless we go and somebody gives us a degree, a certification, a paper.
Right.
And now we want to brag. I'm like, yes, I'm so proud that I took the time and I studied and I got degreed and I got the certification. Now what you got to do? Now you're going to try to find a job, right? You got to find a way to fit into this social structure, because we missed the point. The point was about autonomy, which starts with entrepreneurialism. As an entrepreneur, you start understanding, like, okay, yeah, I'd much rather work for myself, but that's just the beginning. You have to continue it, because then you say, well, okay, well, you entrepreneur, I start a business, but then once I start a business, that puts me kind of in the same position, because now I have to hire employees and I have to, so now I'm not the worker, but I'm in need of workers. But then that puts me in a category. So now I have to answer to the IRS, and I have to answer to all these other high government agencies and things, just to get, so that I can have permission to operate my business. So obviously that can't be the end all result, but curriculum allows you to see those things. And that's basically what I've been sharing with a few people. I'm not a soapbox person. I realize that, that's one of our problems, and that's what Western curriculum has done to us. It has made us so individualized, individual minded, that when we get information, we got to stand up on a soapbox and tell everybody. And that's the same thing as you being in a jail cell, and you in the business cell for years, and all of a sudden you find a brick that once you move it, it opens up a whole door to your escape. And then you run to the bars and you screaming, everybody, look what I found. This brick does this. Doesn't make sense. So we have to understand that we have to move a certain way if we're going to find a solution. And not to say that we're not going to find a solution just for ourselves, but if you're going to find a solution for your people, you have to move with the people who are in the same frequency as you, right? And I agree. And the most powerful gift that we was given to assist with that was language, because the English language is one of the main keys that has allowed us to put ourselves continuously under a recycling spell, because we got to use the English language. We got to sound heavy. We got to sound deep. We got to research and study, and we got to take this information and we got to break it down and interpret it. And we got to go back and it's like, it doesn't matter. What are the children doing, right? What we are in a new sun cycle, right? What are we doing to prepare for the return of the matriarchy? We are, what I'm saying? What kind of abilities are we opening up amongst ourselves that will allow us to be able to move forward and to not be influenced, in the next generation of our children immediately get sucked into this matrix? We say we got to get out the matrix, and now it's just a catchphrase. It's the matrix. We got to get out the matrix. While I'm doing my matrix stuff, I'm talking about it. Yeah, we got to get out the matrix, and I'm smoking marijuana, or I'm drinking alcohol, or I'm at the club, or I'm what I'm saying? We're doing matrix stuff, talking about we got to get out the matrix. That's insanity, right? So, and that's one of the things that helped me realize how important curriculum was, because I knew curriculum was important, because the ones that were so-called scholars who were jumping up and wanting to stand in front of people and talk didn't want to talk about curriculum, not with me, and when I say scholars and things like that, I'm talking about, big people, because I presented the principle of my curriculum to like some quote unquote heavy hitters in the conscious community, and nothing. I got nothing. One of them even won't even act like he never met me before, and we had a specific discourse about curriculum and different things like that. But the next time, they was like, well, you need to sit down with Dr. Karaam, and I've never met him before. Like I gave you information about what we were doing. So so it shows you that they don't, they didn't want it. So I'm like, okay, but I don't have to keep talking to people. I know the work that I'm doing. I understand that it's a process. It's not an overnight thing. I've literally been working on this for over 20 years. And I am at the stage now where I am starting to see the direction that I need to move in. And it's just a matter of, a matter of this, that time, that movement. Because there are a lot of people that are doing some very powerful things, but they're still doing it under the energy of the old Western curriculum. So
right.
that leaves a consistent back door to the West being able to come back in and mess things up. And two, it puts them at a disadvantage because now they have to defend all the time, right? We've never been in a position where we were just able to grow and build and figure things out. We've always had to defend. We've always had to defend our faith. We've had to defend our communities, defend our family, defend our minds. We've always had to do that. So we don't have time to create spaces where the women can practice their magics and not worry about being interrupted and disturbed and influenced by outside. Or we haven't had the opportunity where our children can just we can build like laboratories and things. They can just mess around with scientific concepts and mathematic concepts and come up with stuff that we're seeing on movies. We don't have the opportunity to do that. And that's a direct result of Western curriculum. So at some point, a few of us are going to have to say, okay, I understand and I'm tired. So I don't want to play that no more. I don't want to play that game.
Right.
And once we enough of us realize that they're tired of it, then we'll start putting that concerted effort towards developing and making sure that something like that stays around and becomes an iconic situation like the pyramids, like the greatness of our cultures and things like that. Like that's the one structure we can talk about that no matter what culture or whatever has happened on the planet, the pyramids have always been here, right? So what are we going to do that's going to be like the pyramids that we're going to implement so that 5,000 years from now, people will still be in the energy of or able to begin to talk about that concept. And it's all frequency.
My question is, just for the viewers that are watching and, the brothers and sisters that we want to kind of sort of spark the interest in NUWAUBIK, because you and I are both NUWAUBIK teachers, and I think that from what you've explained, you went through great lengths to be able to convey the message properly as far as, language learning and also other learning subject matter in relation to the curriculum. So I want you to kind of sort of give us a compare and contrast to your curriculum as opposed to the European or I should say Western world, pardon me, curriculum. Like compare and contrast, what's the difference?
Okay, so again, Western curriculum, the process is based upon herd learning. It's based upon taking a group of beings, no matter what the nature, no matter what the physiological, psychological, sociological, genealogical development. They lump them all in one area and they give them a set lesson plan that they all are forced to learn. They are judged based on how quickly they learn the material. And the material is not information that is generally practical. Most of it is just memorization stuff,
Yeah.
So literally a good maybe 10 to 15% of what we learn in schools is actually applied in our lives. Everything else is literally just there to hold space. And they hold space so that we can say, okay, do you know who the 16th president of the United States was? Do you know the capital of the state of the, it's like information that's like, okay, that's your stuff, but how does that work for, how does that help me in my life? All right. They have a grading system, and the grading system is kindergarten, first grade through 8th grade, 9th through 12th grade. and then you have college, university. So there is literally 12 years or more of education for you to become programmed properly to become what is considered a corporate slave. So you're going to become a corporate slave on whatever level, high level or low level. All of it represents slavery to this corporate structure. Our curriculum is designed so that we tap into the innate creativity and spirituality of the children. We allow them to learn and grow at their own pace. We offer incentives so that they can move through it. Like, hey, you can move through it as fast as you see fit, or you can take however long you want to take. It's just up to you. At a certain point, you realize, like, okay, it's some things that I've seen in the world that I want to get involved in. So let me go ahead and jump on this. But now I can see it from a different perspective. I'm not trying to go and be a part of it, like dive into it. Like, oh, I want that. I want to be a part of it. Now you be like, okay, I can find a place, but I have a platform first. And from this platform, I can take and pull and see what I want to do. We focus on entrepreneurialism within our curriculum. We focus on particularly spirituality that is focused in nature. So there's no religious rhetoric, even though they have the opportunity to learn about religions of the world. My degree in the comparative study of religions, gives them access to being able to learn about all of the religions. So, and it's not like we learn about one which is better than the other and things like that. We learn about what religion represents as a whole, and we learn specific information about various concepts within those religions. So it gives them another perspective that a lot of children don't have, because most children are under the guise that they have to follow what the religion of their parents. And that's another part of Western curriculum that we don't pay attention to, because that was all a part of the programming to keep us from surpassing the spiritual plateau that they set for us. Because they knew that if we evolved and we went to our lowest high point, not even our highest, but our lowest high point, then they would no longer be able to keep us captive.
Absolutely.
So they had to create a ceiling, and their curriculum was designed to keep us under that ceiling. And it was an educational curriculum, but it was also a religious curriculum, as well as a social curriculum. And all of these things was a part of why generation after generation, we've gotten to the point where we try everything to be accepted, to be included, to be appreciated, and to be celebrated in this matrix structure. We don't want anything else. We'll talk all of this conscious talk, but then we'll get up on stage because they gave us a Grammy or Emmy or whatever, and we'll cry and we'll act like this is such a blessing from God and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but you was just talking all this black stuff, right? So what are you saying? It's lip service. It's lip service. And
that part.
I'll say whatever I need to say so I can get up there. And if they love me, they really, really love me. We are living in that fantasy. So our children get caught right up in that, but they get caught up in it earlier than we did. Because like it might have taken us till we was like maybe in our early teens, some late teens, to really get caught up in all of that. These children now is 2, 3 years old, 4 or 5 years old, and they right into the illusion, right? You take a 4-year-old child's cell phone away from them and watch the panic and the crackhead activity that takes place within that child. So it's like they've done a very, very thorough job of programming us so that we automatically program the next generation, right? You're not going to stop us, this generation of us, from celebrating things like the prom and graduations and all of those Western educational premises. You're not going to stop us from doing that. We'll talk about it and we'll be like, yeah, that's interesting and that's deep, but we're not going to stop. We're going to still go to the sock, what they call it, little celebration that they do in school for the football game. They call it I can't remember the name of it now, but all of the little celebration that they do, we're not gonna stop it. We're gonna go and celebrate it. We're gonna celebrate our children doing it, because we're going to say that this is one of your memories that you need to have. And it's like, oh, that's all we're concerned with. But that shows you that we're just trying to create a place and find, and like I say, find a window seat in hell. That's what we're doing.
Not the window seat, a window seat in hell.
You know what I'm saying? As long as we got, we can get an occasional breeze, we fine. I'll stay here in hell. We got a lot of amenities in here. So, and that's why I understood why the curriculum represented a very important part of all of this. If you look at all of our organizations and you go back to the Marcus Garvey movement, the United Negro Improvement Association, on through the Moorish Science Temple, on through the other organizations, all the way up into the Black Panther Party, you get into the original Nation of Islam, and then all of the various divisions, on down into the Ansarullah community, the NUWAUBIK community, all the way up into where we are, where we stepped out of the era of the master teachers and we moved into what I call the era of the super teachers, because now everybody's a master teacher. Everybody, I'm a master such and such, and it's like, really, you understand what that means?
I know exactly what you're saying too.
Yeah, so it's like,
So I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to get you to, because I brought you on because I wanted people to, after speaking with you, and Brother Love, matter of fact, he said I should, man. He was just messaging me. And Brother Love and I was speaking about you before you came on, and he reminded me how you and your family would, the master teacher would bring y'all up, and y'all would pretty much do the NUWAUBIK songs and the skits and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I remember that. So I wanted you to kind of explain the NUWAUBIK language from your perspective, and how you've actually reached people or brothers and sisters, especially you can start with your family, with the language and the importance of it, if you don't mind.
I was raised a Muslim. My parents came into Islam when I was around 4. My father brought my mother and her family, and and we were in the Nation of Islam. And after the Honorable Elijah Muhammad passed, there was a split, and my family was a part of the split that went to his 10th son, the Honorable Warith Dean Muhammad.
Yeah, I know Warith.
We were in Chicago, and we were, and that's what I grew up under. I grew up under that energy. I didn't know much about Islam. There was, there were books and things like that, but I was a child. I was a child, so unless somebody gave me something specific, I didn't really. Nothing grabbed me like I guess it should have or whatever. I knew the prayer, the opening prayer. That's about it. Bismillah ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I could say that. And it was just because I heard it so many times. My father would have me read and write Quran. And I guess some of it settled in subconsciously, but I didn't really consciously grasp things. I read a lot of books when I was younger that just were like seed planters. He planted seeds in me. I didn't really pay attention. When I was 14 years old, we came into contact with the Ansarullah community. My father had met a brother, and by the time I was 16, we had moved into the community. In 6 months, I was fluent in Arabic, and that was because the children spoke it. So, and that was the best thing forever for me. I was like, man, this is wonderful. This is, but because of where I was at, I was in a situation where I was looked upon as a threat. My family was looked upon as a threat because we moved in, and they had been looking for a family from Chicago to run the Chicago community. We didn't know this. I found this out years later, and but because we were being groomed for that, we kind of were attacked for it. Specifically me, and my father was targeted. My mother, my sisters didn't really feel it because they were younger, but it was like a hate that was going around. So they were trying to stop my classes, my Arabic classes. They were trying to stop me.
Shut him down. You got to get him out of here.
Yeah, I was a threat. So my family ended up leaving because my father was like, look, I can't be a part of this and keep having them do this stuff and then trying to smile in my face. He like, I can't do that. So, but when he left, they came up with a rule that said the family had to leave. So, broke my mother's heart. I was 18, so I had I could stay, but the guy assumed that I was leaving. I didn't. I said I stayed, and he was like, oh, but I stayed. But after that, that's when they came. They was trying to really put, like, man. And I'm just like, yo, what? I didn't do anything. I'm just trying to learn this stuff. So I had opportunities blocked. They was lying, saying I didn't want to do things that I wanted to do. Just a lot of stuff. So when I left Chicago, I found it. I ended up moving to Cincinnati, and I found a little more freedom in terms of not having that stress of people trying to stab me back so much. But language was my thing. Everybody knew me for they was like, yeah, Karaam knows the language, and that's what grabbed me. Out of all the doctrine, out of all everything, it was the language that grabbed me.
Yep, that's it right there.
And I really wanted to run with it. And I mean, it was at that moment I knew. I said, when I start having children, my children are not going to speak English as their first language. I just knew that. I was like, okay, whatever it is. But I had Arabic, so I'm like, this is what they're going to speak. By the time I moved to Georgia, we had moved into the NUWAUBIK, and NUWAUBIK was starting to develop, right? So I was all over NUWAUBIK. I was like, oh, this is dope. I love this. And then when it came into NUWAUBIK, I said, well, there it is. This is the language that my children are going to speak. I knew it. I was like, this is it. This is what we're doing. This is how we're working. My first son was born in 1996, and everybody always asks me, how did I teach my children NUWAUBIK? And I always tell them I didn't. I conditioned myself to not speak English to them at their youngest state. That's what I did. So by doing that, now, and I have to explain. I have to say this: if you are trying to lose weight, you condition yourself to follow a regimen to do it. Right? It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to. But if you don't condition yourself, you'll keep going back, and you wonder why you're not losing weight, but you haven't conditioned yourself. If you want to save up to buy a car, you condition yourself to every time you get some money, you put a little bit of money on the side. But if you don't condition yourself, it won't happen. So after 3 months of just walking around, holding my son, and the things in my house, and my teacher's guide in one hand, and my son in my other hand, and just pulling words and whatever I see, and I just use those basic words because I knew Arabic. It wasn't as challenging as it could have been because I was able to still kind of put words and phrases together, simple things. But by 3 months, my brain would not speak English to him, and I was fortunate because his mother agreed. So she went. So by the time he was 6 months old, she was there. And what we found out is that when you condition your mind, your brain says, all right, this is what we're going to do. So we need more words. We need a bigger vocabulary. So your brain makes you develop your vocabulary. So it was the first year of my son's life that I really got my crash course mentally in the language. He had a brother. His brother was born in 97. So now not only were we already locked in and we weren't speaking English to the babies, now we had a 1-year-old who was speaking basic NUWAUBIK because that's all we spoke to him, right? Now, I'll tell you this. During that first year, I had to be a different person, meaning not too many, my people that was around me, if you didn't respect what I was doing, then you couldn't come in my house. So they come to the house, and if I knew you was one of those people that would, I would step outside. So very few people had the opportunity to come in and be around. Now, if we was going out and about, of course, you're going to speak whatever. But I knew that at a certain point, my son knew, okay, that's another language. So I'll smile and wave. But when we get home, that's when we speak our language. Or when I'm talking to dad and I'm talking to mom, this is what we got. So when my second son was born, we had a nice energy going, because I was concerned because my wife, her family, her mother, so the grandmother, I was like, I wonder how she's going to act as far as them going around her. She actually wondered that. She said, well, what about when I take them to see my grandma? I said, their mother. I said, that's not a problem. I said, she's the grandma, so they'll understand. Grandma speaks that other language, but when we come home, this is what we speak. So I wasn't worried about that as long as for the first few months, we locked ourselves in. Now, my mother and father, because they were Ansars, mom was on it. Mom was on it. Listen, now.
Sound like my Umi.
When I tell you, my mother was like, when I had held classes, when I did teach NUWAUBIK, she was my best. She was always my best student, and I would use her as an example because you would have people come in and be like, "I'm too old to know learn a new language," and my mother would be like, "That's Mooney."
That's money. Excuse me.
I'm 40. Yeah. I'm 48 here, and I'm like, so I love taking the children to go see her. So she would always they would come back and they'd be learned a new song. She'd be made up a song in a language and stuff like that. So that kept the energy going. So I had a little support with that. I had a few people around me, brothers and sisters, who they started having children around the same time. And I was trying to get them on that. And they did their best. They lasted, most of them didn't last past 6 months. And it was either one or the other. They just was like, they couldn't, it was like they felt that they were going to be missing something if the baby didn't speak English, and I didn't understand what it was they would miss. So my mother transitioned in 2000. When she transitioned, I was just like, yo, I didn't know what I was going to do. Like, come on now, use my rock. Like, this is what we had some stuff playing. Like so when I finally was able to kind of get past it, my family grew. So I went from having 2 children to 5 children, and then 2 more children, so 7 total. Mm-hmm. All right. So I had 3 stepchildren, and my stepchildren were young. But when I made the agreement with their mother, like, okay, this is what I do, and she agreed, then we were good. So literally, my oldest daughter, she was 5 because my son was 4. And then it was a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, and 5-year-old picked up NUWAUBIK literally weeks. It was weeks. The 9-year-old weeks. The 7-year-old was a little longer, but it was a couple of months. For some reason, he was trying to fight it, but then he became like the strongest one with it. He was letting people know, this is NUWAUBIK. He was doing some resistance. He was resistant, and I understood that was that, because they had went to public school for a little bit, and it was just, I could see that mind. That's when I really started to see how dangerous Western curriculum was, and also how dangerous the English language was. So I was like, my goal was to create an environment at home that allowed the language to live. And what I realized after the fact was that not only did we do that, but we literally created a protective bubble around the family, around the home, so that a lot of those energies that the children that picked up and things like that turned them, our kids got turned out. My children, they were immune. And it wasn't until they got to the age of going out and doing their own thing that they actually started to come into contact with that energy. Right? But they knew what it was. So if they decided to go with it, then that was their decision. But it didn't like completely absorb them like it absorbed a lot of our other children, and that was one of the things that saddened me, because I homeschooled all my children and I created an educational structure for the children of the nation. I literally did, and you talking about bombs over Baghdad, like I can't. I to this day, I still struggle with the understanding of why it was such a strong energy put into stopping what I was doing. And it wasn't like I was, you know what I'm saying? I could see I was out here bootlegging Doc's books. I was out here, you know what I'm saying? I could see if I was doing something. I was teaching the babies. But what happened was I had a school, I had an academy in Georgia, and we had almost 30 children, and 95% of those children were speaking the language within being after being in the school 3 months, 6 months. They were speaking language. We were making music in the language. So, but I gave them a purpose with the language. I showed them that here's a practicality of the language. We're not just learning this so that we can be like, yes, we want to get up in front of everybody and we're going to recite a supplication and we're going to like, no, let's make music in it. Let's have a conversation in the language. Let's talk about stuff. Let's have discussions within the language. So they saw the practicality of it, but I found out that I was a threat because of that. Because that would be something that could literally change the status quo, like literally stop those who had ill intent within the nation from carrying out their things. Because if everybody got on the language kick, then we would start to protect ourselves from those energies that was coming from the outside in.
So you think that I don't mean to cut you off. You from your perspective, do you think that NUWAUBIK is pretty much like the shield for the mind, and to be able to have a higher level of psychic self-defense against those adverse forces or energies?
Yes, it was the first key, because Arabic was a shield. The only difference was that Arabic was somebody else's language. Mm-hmm. So when we had our own language, all we had to do was practically apply it. I remember the math teacher saying in '96, he said he said it in 1999. He had a meeting with the brothers on the land, and he said first thing he said was, I failed. And when he said that, everybody was like, what do you mean, Bob, you didn't fail? He said we were supposed to be speaking our language by '96, and then he said we could have taken over because we would have had that frequency. He said, but I failed. And when he said that, in that sea of brothers that was out there, like I said, I maybe 2 or 3 others that I knew were actually using the language. And I'm like, that's bad. That's not a good thing. I said, because now that means that we are at risk of anything, right? Again, if you use the tools of the oppressors, they'll always have a way to get you.
Basically, I mean, that's common sense. That's definitely common sense.
But it's not so common, because that's what everybody's doing. We're using the tools of the oppressors, thinking that we're going to get a heads up or a leg up over the oppressors.
Do you think that that's out of comfortability? Do you think that they're just too comfortable?
That's Western curriculum's programming, generational programming from Western curriculum. They teach us to be that way. They teach us to be passive. They teach us to be conformist. They teach us to be like, well, if it don't work, then just go with what's going on and, go with the flow. That's taught to us.
That shit. Yeah. That shit. Go with the flow. I'm sick of going with the flow.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm tired of that. Let's do something else. Let's do something that goes against the grain. And the fear of going against the grain is so deep rooted in us that when people do it, like the enemy don't even have to come. We come after our own. We go after our own. Like, what are you doing over there, nigga? Why are you doing something different? we come after our own.
That part.
Like, dude, you look like me. Why are you? What's the problem? And I mean, I had like man, I'm telling you, I had people coming in like to be moles, like spies in my school, and I'm just like, dude, I'm teaching the babies. Like, you act like you would have thought that I had international conspiracy going on.
Brother Karaam not Brother Karaam, but Brother Love just said Karaam was a threat because the power of the alchemy in the NUWAUBIK language and the infiltrators, dirty Moors, who didn't want that transformation in our people to happen on a large scale, still here.
And There it is. Look, I talked to a sister in England, and she said that she was talking to a brother, and she mentioned me, and she said she said he said that we're not supposed to deal with the brother Karaam, and she said, well, what makes you say that? He said we got a communication about that. She said when? He said 2008, and this was 2021 when I was talking to the sister. So, in England received the communication not to mess with me. Dude, I was Voldemort. I was he who shall not be named. And I didn't even know. That was the crazy part. I was doing me, and it was like I did not even know. And I'm like, what? Where is this coming from? So after a while, I was like, so as the language, like I said, the language evolved. It was going through its changes, but it was changing really fast, and I was concerned about that because I was like, a language, and from a linguistic perspective, a language evolves with the people,
right,
through their use of it. Like it's like they made the language evolve like the Wiz. So you remember when they went to Oz, and my man Richard Pryor, he was like, he's like, my vibe today is green. Everybody, green, got to be green. Then he'd be like, he was like, you know what? Today I'm on a different vibe. The color's red, and they like red. We jamming, and it's like that's how they was changing the language. Like it was like at somebody's whim, we're gonna do it differently, and then we're gonna and they like these is what coming from the master teacher, and I'm just like I'm not from a language perspective, and what I started to understand was that the problem was people wanted to learn the language like doctrine, and that's not how you learn language.
No, it's definitely not.
You don't learn language
definitely
like
not.
doctrine. You learn language through practical application. You learn the language through acknowledging the energy and working on building the frequency of it. But more importantly, the language is going to be learned through the children's use of it, and you as the adult's ability to communicate with the child. He gave us that formula when we were Ansars, because we would move into the tab, and the children would be with the children, and then next thing you know, you come back, your child's speaking a whole different language, and now you have to learn the language to communicate with your child, and that's how it was. And so there was a whole Arabic flow with the children. The only problem was that the parents dropped the ball when it came to protecting that environment, and that's
because I grew up in the tab, so it's like like when we were younger. Pops imported the Arabic teachers over here to help us with the Arabic Fusha, and we learned it. NUWAUBIK literally was the evolution of the children, wanting to be able to communicate in a way to whereas we had our own thing going, just how it naturally is. And Pops got wind of it, and he called certain brothers and sisters together to tell him pretty much how we say what we say. And that's when the NUWAUBIK book came out, or the scroll came out.
right.
But we only got 2 minutes. You only was available for an hour, but this was just getting good. So we're definitely gonna have to.
Yeah.
Huh?
I got a little bit.
Well, it's gonna. I would have to, because I only set it from 7 to 8.
Okay.
I can go ahead and set another one for 8 to 9, and we jump right back on if you want. Because I wanted them to kind of sort of hear us talk NUWAUBIK, because I learned all the dialects. I learned from well, of course I speak Arabic, but I'm talking about from the NUWAUBIK all the way to the Egyptian dialect.
Right.
The only dialect I don't speak is the Mispetiya. But anything other than that, I learned all the dialects. The dialect that we mostly use, we call it Zarifa, and it's more, Zarifa comes from the word Zaruf, but it's the combination of the NUWAUBIK all the way up to the Egyptian. So, yeah, and I wanted your, just, for brothers and sisters to hear the importance of the language, man, because, you're a language teacher, I'm a language teacher, and you're very effective. And I just want to say, if nobody told you, we definitely appreciate your work, man, because we need that. And when I spoke with you earlier today, I was real motivated. Actually, I spoke with the brother Love about you, because that's my mentor. And so, you know, I was telling him, yeah, man, he sparked some stuff, but a lot of things you had told me, Brother Love had already spoken to me, but you was just like the confirmation of it all, you know?
Right.
You know, so shout out to my mentor, Brother Love. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And we're gonna bring the brother back. When would you like to do another live, or when would you be available? It's up to you, because I do this all day, every day. But I know, you know, you got a different schedule.
Yeah. My schedule is kind of rough.
I usually like to do like anytime a 2-hour live, because an hour once when you explain the basics, the hour done went. So it's like, we want more.
Right.
But and I didn't know that we would have more time, so I've already told my mate to come on up, and I guess I'd do that for the rest of the night. But I would like to be able to reach out to you and get you on the platform so that you could be able to, you know, speak a little bit more, especially about the curriculum, the alchemy of the letters, and just your experience, man, of us gathering people from the language, because you've accomplished it. So, you know, you get your roses while you're here for that.
All right, appreciate it. I am like Saturdays is this Saturday evenings is probably the day to catch me. Some Tuesdays and Fridays, but in the next few weeks I'm gonna be like really like busy working and
Gotcha.
stuff like that. And we just getting back to our educational program. So
Gotcha.
Monday is our first day. So but like I said, I'll definitely keep in touch with you, because we I mean, I think it's been past time for a discourse like this, but we need to understand that everything else that we're doing is like we're spinning wheels, but nothing is moving, and we've been doing this over and over again, and we still haven't realized that it's insanity. And the one thing that we were given that literally could have set everything off, we've been like, we've been kind of like lackadaisical on, but it's the language, and more importantly, it's the creation of an environment where our language lives. And until we understand what that means and are practically and actively engaged in creating that, then we're not going to see the change that we really need, you know. And that's where I am with everything, you know what I'm saying? Because with the various dialects and things that we have now, there's no reason why we shouldn't represent doctrine, everything on a much higher level than we already do. You know, we should.
I agree.
I agree. At a whole nother level. So.
I agree. If y'all want to show the brother some love, I dropped his Cash App in the comment section. Also, we're trying to build the Nuwaubian school. So I dropped my Cash App inside of the comment section. I want to say shout out to my mentor, Elder Brother Love. Also, young Elder. We had Rod Hayes on the show today. So I want to give that brother more props. I love him, man. That's my dude. And what I'll do, brother, if you don't mind, I'll reach out to you through Messenger like we did today, and we figure out what's the best time for you, and we do it again with hopefully a little bit more time, because an hour, that I don't think that's, I think you got a lot to offer the people, man. You can't do it in an hour. Mike can't do it in 2, but that'll give us some time to play with.
Yeah, a little bit of time to play with. That'll work. Yeah.
So we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. Please hit that like button and subscribe. Non-Nation Media is where I'm doing the NUWAUBIK classes. I got a lot of PowerPoints that I'm putting out. I'm also about to put out some more PowerPoints on the alchemy of the letters. And we'll see y'all again tomorrow. Wadu.
Wadu.